Because our brains just do that. They want to associate to the familiar. And it's like, it's work to go in the other direction than to like, what if there's a different path? What if this is, what if this is where I'm supposed to be? Like that was a question I kept saying 2 weeks ago. Like, what if this is where I'm supposed to be? What if I'm not supposed to have, 10 clients and not getting, what if I'm not supposed to?
Welcome to the Deeper Awareness Podcast, where we delve into the depths of our inner selves, uncovering authenticity and transformation. Join us for enlightening conversations on breathwork, self-discovery, and the profound journey within. I'm your host, Josh Perry, joined by the delightful Hannah Oxley. Let's begin.
Hey everyone, it's Hannah. On today's episode of Deeper Awareness, Josh and I sat down with Alma Cono, and oh, what a gift it was to be in her presence. She has this way about her that feels like a warm hug. Join us as we talk about authenticity and how important it is to listen to and speak your truth. Alma is a mom of two, an educator, and an evolving breathwork facilitator. Take a listen to her story.
Welcome to today's episode. We're so happy to have Alma here with us. A little bit of background before I just turn it over to her is Alma and I were in the same Pause Breathwork Facilitator program. And I just remember when you would speak, there was like this grounding. I mean, I'm very grounding too, so it felt like home. Like I was like, she's one of my people, it was just like, yeah, I could just feel it coming through you. So yeah, and we've connected a few times now, and I'm just so excited for you to be here. And if you want to just take a minute and tell us about yourself, whatever that feels good for you.
Sure. Well, thank you, first of all, for inviting me to the podcast. I am honored, so I'm thankful for this space. You said my name, Alma Cono. I am, when I first think of introducing myself, I go immediately to my job, my work, right? So I've worked in education for 25 years, teacher, assistant principal. Now I'm a director of an early childhood program within our school district, same school district for 25 years now. But I'm a mom of two amazing boys that I am so thankful that I get to raise and go through life learning and growing personally to then be able to share things with them to help them not go through things that are unnecessary, right? Or things that they don't. Like the awareness, I guess, like allowing them to experience things for, greater awareness in life. So it's my joy. And I love children. I am like the neighborhood grandma, but not a grandma. Like I just will, every kid, it's like Miss Alma, and they're hugging on me and I'm hugging on them. So babies and puppies, babies and dogs are my thing. So yeah, that's just a little, I'm an educator and I'm a mom. And I'm a breathwork facilitator in still growing. Yeah, growing into that.
I love that. I love that I think it's an American thing where when we introduce ourselves, we say what we do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I was a pickleball coach for a year or so and played pickleball for 6 years. And there was a friend of mine that introduced me to his wife and two kids. And he said, he's really good at pickleball. And I was like, I'm not taking that as my identity. Like I said, and I'm a good human. I was like,
Yeah.
I wanted to own that over
Mm-hmm.
hitting a wiffle ball over the net really well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
even sick of asking people, like, what do you do for work? Like, when you meet someone, I want to ask, like, what makes you happy today? Like,
Yeah.
what do
Yeah.
you do?
Yeah.
What are you doing? What did you do yesterday? Like, I'm so sick
Mm-hmm.
of just not only hearing that question, because I'm the same way. I don't really know how to answer it these days, but asking that question, what do you do for work? Like, that's not how we should be defined anymore.
Sure. Yeah, I know. And for me, I think it's 25 years. It's like half of my life. It's what I've done. Right. And it's like I've got this little snapshot of life now in this last year that is like something different. And so yeah. And I think about people who are like close to retirement and that's all they've done. And then when they retire, and then what will they be after? Right. And I don't want that for myself. Like I feel like I will always be a teacher. I will always love kids, right? I will always be someone who's learning. And so that piece of me won't go away. But yeah, I don't the other day my superintendent had us say like if you could be anything other than what you are like, professionally right now. And I don't think I answered it that later. I was like, oh crap. She's probably like, I said, I went to work for myself to my boss. I said this. It's like, but learning how, to be something beyond just, like you guys were just saying, like what's your job title, right? Because then I think there's another thought that comes after that, like, oh, you must be. I used to hate saying I was a school principal because the response was always like, oh, let me make sure I behave. And it was like, I don't want to be, I don't even want to say I'm a principal because then it's like immediately there's a response, negative or positive, for like, I love my school principal. I was like, I was always in the office when I was a kid. And it's like now I'm associated to that past memory of yours that I have nothing to do with just because I hold this title. So yeah.
Oh, that's so good.
I know, I think of like Matilda.
See, everyone has a connection to it, some sort of way. Yeah.
That's so good.
Yep.
Well, we love having conversations and just having a very casual, just chill situation where we just get to share. And Hannah and I have really just, I guess, discovered how much we love hearing people's stories. And so the name of the podcast is Deeper Awareness. And what we like to hear is people's stories of going through life, doing the things that society kind of said, this will make you happy, this will fulfill you. And then there's like a point or a situation or something happens, and we discover that that was all bullshit. And so, and then we have to do something different. It's usually a journey inside. There's something that was like, okay, that didn't work. So what can I do inside to maybe give that or provide that or find that? So if any of that resonates, we'd love to hear your version of that.
Oh, yeah, I feel like I have like chapters in my life that I can think of. And I can rewind like first time changing, I guess I would say. Like I grew up Catholic. I went to catechism class, confirmation, all that. And then I remember in college, or before college, I don't remember exactly when, but I used to go and I used to say, I want a connection with God. I want to connect with God. And I would go to church and I would walk, from the apartment that we lived in the city. And I remember being at mass, standing up, kneeling down, sitting, doing all of the things, and then walking home feeling just as empty as I walked in. And I hated that feeling. And it wasn't a feeling of like I'm doing something wrong or I'm not doing it right. It was like there's something else, like something else. Can't remember the time frame between that experience and then now I'm in college. And I remember I used to play really loud music. I had my own little dorm room, and then 2 doors down, there was another gal who was playing her loud Christian music. And so we were like competing with our music. I was like listening to like R&B and rap and stuff. Like I was listening to really non-Christian music. And then she would try to come over and like talk to me and I was just like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, she always gave me she would give me these booklets or these things to read, and I wouldn't read them. And then I had I started reading some of the books, I think. I started reading some of the books like Joyce Meyer. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Joyce Meyer, but she writes a lot of those books. So it was all of Joyce Meyer books I was reading. And um yeah, I was like taking in the information, but not really moving with it, not doing anything. And then I was in a relationship with someone who was not very nice to me. He was not kind, and we had a really bad situation. And we were out in Detroit, and he was physically, aggressive with me. And after that, I just remember I had this like crucifix ring on my finger, and I was like, I just need you, God. I need you. I need you, Jesus. And then after that, I just kind of retracted and was like, I don't want to do any of this stuff. I don't want to be part of this. Like there's more. And I remember being back in my dorm room and just crying and sobbing, and then just feeling this like this like warm and cold like sensation over my body, and just feeling like this is you, God. This has to be you, because there's nothing else in the room. There's no one else there saying anything. And all of these words from all of these books that I'd been reading were just like pouring into my heart. And I was like, oh my gosh. So then I stopped playing my rap music and I start listening to the Christian music. And then she invites me to her church one day. And so I go, and if this was a Black Christian church, right? So I go to this church, and I am just consumed with the power and the like beauty and the music and the message, and I'm like, this is it. This was the experience that I wanted. And so I was like a church rat. I was there all the time. They would make fun of me. They're like, if there's a funeral, Alma's showing up. If there's like anything that's happening, Alma's showing up. And I was like, I just wanted it all. I was just taking it all in. I wanted to be that, right? And I was in the choir, can't sing. I was in everything. I was everything. But it was such a good, like, it felt so filling. It felt so like connecting to my spirit. Reading the Bible and reading through the scripture, and like receiving like these, now I will call them downloads, but now, before it was like these messages from God. And then we had this, he was an elder of the church who started a smaller church in, if anyone's from the Chicagoland area, Cabrini Green. It was all housing developments. It was mostly African American, very, lots of poverty, lots of gangs, lots of shooting, fighting. Like it just wasn't, it was like on the news as the unsafest place, right, to be. And then here comes me. He wants to have a church down there. He wants to hold church. And so it's like, okay, and then he found out that I had just graduated from college as a teacher. And he was like, I need a Bible study teacher for my kids. And I was like, sign me up. Another thing I was signing up for. So there I was, going down to Cabrini Green every Thursday and Sunday for Bible study on Thursday, and then services on Sunday. And that was fulfilling, right? Because I was a teacher now. I'm crossing, I'm blending the two, right? I'm a studied teacher, and now I get to teach the word of God to these children. And again, Miss Alma, I was like, and there was no fear. Like I tell one of my African American friends, and I tell her, and she laughs at me. She's like, "You were where? What? You were in Cabrini Green?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And I'm like, I just would walk through, saying hi to the folks there, and then walk right in. The pastor would come out to the car every time and say, and I'd be like, "Why are you coming out?" And he's like, "Because I want to make sure you're safe." I was like, "I feel safe. I feel fine." And so he was like, "So you can come in on your own?" I was like, "Yeah." So every day, every time I'd go in. That was super fulfilling, and it made me get into the Bible deeply so that I could make sure that what I was reading, I could then share with them. So it's not like I had a curriculum or something that I was following. I was purely reading the word and then sharing with the children. And until one day the pastor said, I think you're ready for the adults. And I was like, okay. And he sent me home and said, pick any verse and I want you to teach on Sunday. Got it. I go every night. I read, I pray, I read, I pray, I read, I pray. Sunday comes and I stand before them and I just cry and sobbing uncontrollably at some points, can't get my words out. And I tell them, I didn't hear God tell me anything. And I'm not going to pretend like I heard something. And I'm not going to stand up here and misinterpret his word and have it land somewhere where it's not supposed to land. I'm too responsible to do that. Like I can't do that. And so being in a church, everyone was so super supportive and loving and caring and like they understood. And the pastor got up there and he, did his sermon. And I honestly don't remember feeling shame. I felt supported, which was good, right? And I felt like it was the right thing to do, to not stand up there and just make something up, right? Just to so I hold on to that when I see people standing before me, right? Like and even in the church, because as I continued with that church, there was things that I saw that I didn't like, that didn't connect with me and my soul, and there were like just wrong things, right? And then all of a sudden this beautiful space of God and the people of God started to turn ugly to me, and I didn't want to have anything to do with it, and I felt hurt and I felt damaged by that it's like I don't want to have anything to do with God. And then I connected God to the man, right? God to the people, and I was done. I was out. Didn't want to be a part of it anymore. And everyone from that church would reach out to me and like, hey, Miss Alma. Never would I ever return phone calls. Never would I ever respond to text messages. Nothing. I just needed to be away because I couldn't manage deciphering between or discerning between truth, manipulation, or self-serving approaches, right? Like couldn't, it just didn't feel good. So I just stopped going to church. I stopped. And then the time between there and pause has been many years. Still don't go to church. Still, am very skeptical about people of God, right? Like anything that is an organized religious thing. But then I find pause, right? Then I find pause and I felt like ripe and ready for some heart healing. And I remember joining one of her, Sam Skelly's free breathwork sessions. And there was like 100 some of us on there, right? So I was just like this little bitty square on the screen. And I was happy to be just a little bitty square. I wasn't trying to be in front of anyone. But I remember like my heart, it's always my heart. It's always my heart. My heart just wanting to feel love, be a part of something, believe with people, and the power of belief. Like that was just, and I was like, oh my God, this feels so good. And then I was supposed to do pause that year and I chickened out. And then I did it the next year. And then I, committed and chickened out and maybe financially couldn't, a little bit of both. And then joined, started pause. And there were these essence, and I haven't even said this out loud as I'm saying this. There have been these similarities to the power of that would happen in the church for me, and that would happen with pause, that it was like a little scary because, again, the manipulation and the pain that happened with church stuff, and yet wanting to be so open and trusting and believing and hoping, and like, and so, you know, the more I would read and the more that I would, participate in our classes, it was like all of it was like lining up and making sense. And it was just, oh, okay, this feels settling. And I think what also is comforting to me about it is that that though we have someone teaching us, we're not tied to the teacher, like the manipulative piece that I felt I had in the church, right? It's like it's coming back to me. Like I get to move through my things. I get to breathe to my things, and it comes back to me. And not a relying on the human person to like be that for me. So those pieces I think have been transformational for me, like in the church and then coming through pause. And then just as pause is just like this, I don't even know how to describe it. It's just like, or just breath work in general, I should say, not necessarily pause. Pause was my experience, right? That I was able to have in relation to breath work. And um, so now I feel like every day that I have either a breathwork session or like I get a download, it reminds me a little bit of receiving information from God, right? And then it reminds me that there's this space still within me that wants to give, wants to serve, wants to be whole, wants to be a part of something. Um, and so all of that like gets me to today while I'm still trying to like move forward in this, and what that looks like and what it means for me and what it means for the people that I connect with. Because one of the similarities that was an uncomfortable similarity is like, right, in the church it was like you have to be like an evangelical and you have to, bring people to Jesus and you have to tell them about the word and so that they can be saved. And it was almost like they're bad or they're in a bad situation and you have to go bring them to save them. And sometimes when I think of pause and I think of the business part of pause, and I think not pause, breath work, the business side of breath work, like it feels that way, and that's uncomfortable to me. That doesn't feel like flow. It feels like force, right? Like there's broken people that I need to go fix, and that's not my responsibility. But it's like this message is transferring that needs to be like, not two different things here. Like that was that. Now I'm here. Like what does it look like here though, right? Um, and so I think I feel a little stuck in that, right? Because I don't know what it is. I don't know how it moves forward. Because there's also this realization. Actually, before I jumped on, I was just breathing for a few minutes, and that's exactly what came up, that you I can't the mission is not to save people. It's that's not the mission if I'm making it a responsibility of mine, right? Like no one came and saved me. I joined a program and I worked on this. I'm working on myself, right? And so thinking about it from that lens, that it's until that thinking is really like checked, right? That I don't save anyone, that my work it isn't me. I don't know if I'm describing that. Like I'm not the savior to anyone, right? The work that I do and the work that people do in themselves is what creates that shift and that change in them, um, as it's done for me in many ways. And so here I am now, like sometimes, muddling through this and like oh, this feels ugh. And then sometimes feeling so light, like, oh, this is just beautiful, right? Like these ups and downs that come with this journey. And then trying not to associate like there's something wrong with me when it doesn't feel like it's moving forward, right? Like I keep saying, like, this must be the cocoon phase. I must be in a cocoon right now. My wings aren't ready to flap and fly and be beautiful and, and out there yet. Like that's okay. So what are we doing in here? What's the work? What can we work on right now? Um, so that it doesn't feel like I'm buried somewhere over underground, right? Like you said earlier, Josh, not just grounded, but underground. I don't want to be underground, right? For too long. I got to sprout at some point. So yeah, so here I am. I think that kind of snapshots the journey to my present and the changes and experiences that I've had. I will say that after that pastor had me stand in front of the adults that one time and I sobbed. Um, I don't remember if it was the next time after that or the time after that is when like everything opened up and I was like writing, hearing, having these messages. I'm big on analogy, so like everything was connecting to something and I can describe it in a way that was understandable and like they've experienced. And then I since then I mean, as a kid, I was a talker. I was forever. My sisters would be like, "Oh my God, Alma, we want to go to sleep. Can you stop talking?" But not in front of people. But that experience allowed me to be a little bit more confident in front of people, where I don't mind talking. I don't mind standing in front of people. As long as I have something to say, I can, it makes sense. I'll stand in front of people. It doesn't scare me. But I always attribute it back to that experience. And now as I'm thinking about it, I see it as this like this humbling honor, right? That I was honest with myself and with the people, that it was almost like a test. I can see it as a test. Like I had an opportunity to lie. I had an opportunity to share whatever and just make something up. But I bowed out of that opportunity and rested in honesty instead. For myself and the people's sake, I don't know if I could even like sleep at night if I stood up there and I said something. Just no, it's not me.
That's so beautiful that you chose authenticity back then, like just because like there was something that was so genuine about you that you just couldn't say anything that wasn't true.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Which probably might be a reason why it's so upsetting sometimes when I know that people aren't being truthful, right? Because I feel it as pain for myself and anyone else who's believing it, right? Or this manipulative like way. So yeah, that does create something in me when I feel like people aren't being authentic or aren't telling the whole truth, right? Like because every single one of us can only like right now what I shared, like there's details that I don't even remember, but there's stories that we can tell that may not have the whole truth in there, and then it'll have you believing something. What you walk away with, you'll believe something out of that, right? Yeah, if it's intentionally laid out that way. I don't know, too much manipulation. I just don't like it.
And it's everywhere.
Yeah.
So when people aren't strong in their truth, it's so easy for people to get manipulated. Right? Is that the right way of saying that? Manipulated.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. And I think because there's so many like hurting people, or like how I shared, right? Like I just want a connection. I want to connect with something. And there are people out there that want it so bad that forsake everything just for that connection. And so knowing that about myself, that I know I can't be the only one that has that. I don't want to do that to other people. I don't want to be that for other people. Yeah.
I even read somewhere recently where it's hit me so hard. I've been thinking about it all week. Is people pleasing is a form of manipulation to yourself and to other people. And
Yeah.
I am a huge people pleaser. So I've been like, oh my God, am I manipulating all the people in my life? Like, it's just a really good reflection inward to just get curious about and wonder, like, why
Yeah.
am I like, simply just thought I was doing certain things just so everyone would be happy. But that's not fair. That's not fair to people. So it's, I honor you for always having that. It's like you're a human lie detector.
Oh, but I've had my like huge doses of people pleasing too, though, like because I've one that's always wanted to keep the peace and make sure that everybody's happy, make sure that everyone's okay. And so like yeah, it's like I don't want to upset anybody. I don't want anyone to be angry with me. And that I think has just recently come to a head for me that it's like I think I'm okay with upsetting people. I think I'm gonna be okay with if they don't like me. Um and not leaps and bounds, guys. So I'm not gonna say that, but like certain situations that are like, being a director of a program, I have to manage people, right? And sometimes I have to make decisions that people don't like. Um and I have to be okay with that, right? Like I say that and I feel it in my stomach as I'm saying it out loud right now, that it's like that like can chisel at my confidence when somebody doesn't like what I've done. And then I have to remember that it's not about me, it's not about them. If the state of Illinois wants me to carry something out this way and they're funding our program, guess what? My feelings don't matter. Your feelings don't matter. Let's try to work this together so that we can make it happen. Um, but yeah, that's I'm growing into that. Or maybe growing out of people pleasing. Let's call it that. Growing out of people pleasing.
Well, even just vocalizing that is so hard for me to be like, well, I like whatever you had said was, I don't, if I don't care if I upset people. Like that's
Mm-hmm,
even just speaking that is
mm-hmm.
such a huge step.
Yeah, and I think I'm a super curious person. Like, so then I wonder, like, why is that so upsetting to them? What's going on with them that makes that
Mhm.
so hard for them to now shift from entering one door to the other? You can't come out of door 8, you got to come out of door 7 or whatever. And I'm just making that up. But like, why is that so upsetting? So I become curious about that for them as opposed to taking it personally. Like, man, that really is so upsetting to them. I wonder why. I wonder. And the courage to then hold that conversation is also evolving, right? Like I noticed that was really upsetting for you. Do you want to talk about it? And then I have to remember, like, not everybody's ready to share. Not everybody's ready to like it's upset or articulate why it's upsetting to them, right? Like maybe they don't even know why it's upsetting to them, right? Um, so yeah, knowing I think that's helpful, I guess, to be curious. Like, oh, I wonder why that's so upsetting to them, as opposed to turning it inward, like it's all about me and I'm the bad person. Um,
And
yeah.
especially in your position at work too. Like
Mm-hmm.
if I don't can't even imagine because I would just want to please everybody. And you just can't. There's no way
Mm-hmm.
of making everybody happy, especially when you have to make big decisions like that.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
having that curiosity and understanding for people is such a gift. You're the right person
Yeah.
for the job, it sounds like.
Thank you. Yeah, it's definitely been in 25 years a job that I've evolved into. And I think, yeah. And I think the grounded piece too, like always trying to stay grounded, because I get angry at work. Like I get upset. Like people make me piss me off. Um, Knowing now though that, I need to put my feet flat on this ground right now because I don't want to say the wrong thing. I don't want to emotionally react to what they're, or taking some deep breaths. And I have an amazing principal in the building now who just is also, grounded and like, curious. And, I'm more curious than her. She tells me all the time, she's like, I just say you are the one that gets curious. Like, I don't So we're like a good yin and yang for each other. And again, that's super helpful. So, but now knowing that, rather than flying off the handle and getting really upset, it's like I feel the sensations in my body now. I'm feeling this like happening in there, like, and then getting curious about why is it so upsetting to me? It's like they want to complain about something, and it's bothering me that they're complaining about something. Why am I bothered by their complaint? Right? So like, yeah, just staying in that space of wondering, curiosity, and then but staying tethered, right? Because if I'm not tethered, I'm snapping on somebody and I don't want to. Boss included, because I will, like, my boss too, like I'll, everybody. I don't think I want to say that, as a boss, like, everybody loves me or everybody likes me, but I know good and well that people don't like me, right? I have to make some decisions. And my boss is the same. Like, she has to make some hard decisions that sometimes don't make sense, and they're upsetting. And so rather than being upset with her, which I think I've done way too many times, then it's, again, coming back like, man, this is really upsetting to me. And she's going on about her business, going on to work, doing her thing. And I'm sitting here like, why? Why didn't she, or why did she, or why doesn't she? Um, and then it's just like, it's a leak in my energy, right? Like, as a vessel, there's like punctured my own vessel to release energy in the wrong direction. Like, that's not what I'm supposed to be using my energy for. You know, yeah.
So, if I may, you mentioned you're in a cocoon. From my perspective, you are outside of the cocoon. You might have like wobbly wings or something,
Mm, mm,
but the way
yeah.
you're talking and describing and holding yourself, it may feel like gooey.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
from my perspective, looking at you, like there's so much strength and just solidness in who
Mm,
you are, and
mm-hmm.
maybe just drinking that in for a minute and just really
Mm-hmm.
marinating in the beauty that the spot that you're at is so perfectly you.
Mm. Thank you. Yeah, I think I definitely feel strength. I like the gooey, and I like the like, probably like crumpled up wings that aren't ready and dry yet to like take off. Like, I can see that being a phase. I think 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, I was feeling pretty
Mm.
cocoony, like in a cocoon. Um, I do feel a little bit stronger, or yeah, I feel a little bit stronger. I feel like there's always strength there, though. It's this like you're like, my mind will try to interpret, right? Like, or try to make these assumptions, right? Because we go off of our past, like, oh, this must be right, our brains just do that. They want to associate to the familiar, and it's like, it's work to go in the other direction, then to like, what if there's a different path? What if this is what if this is where I'm supposed to be? Like, that was a question I kept saying 2 weeks ago. Like, what if this is where I'm supposed to be? What if I'm not supposed to have, 10 clients and not getting, what if I'm not supposed to? Then it's like, okay, that felt a little better, right? As opposed to, why don't I have 10 clients? Why am I not breathing people? Why do I feel so uncomfortable and sounding like I'm trying, like the evangelist Christian? Why am I feeling this way as a breathwork guide, right? That I like, that I'm trying to push this onto people, and it feels uncomfortable. Um, Sorry, camera again. And it feels uncomfortable. Um, as and then I just was like, let's just shift the question here. How could this be? And it didn't, and I would ask the questions, and it was almost like I was rolling my eyes at myself, like, Sure, let's ask the question, Alma. Let's play this little mind game over here too. But I think it did help to um look at my perspective a little bit differently, right? Like instead of fighting it or instead of like being unkind to myself. Because there's no doubt in my mind that, you know, there's a breathwork guide in me that is here to serve and honor people in their spaces and witness them the process through. Like there's no doubt in my mind. It's that same mind that wants to, okay, remember I'm a teacher, right? There's lesson plans, there's all of these things that come with this teacher piece that I've been, that it's like, how do I release that a little bit to just flow, right? That's the other one, that it's like just to flow, just flow. And so when Josh reached out to me, we were, there was this Monday group that I was participating in, and one of our former classmates, she was in our class as well, Josh, she said, I'm just saying yes to everything now. And I was like, say yes to everything. Josh calls me and I'm like, yes, saying yes to everything. It doesn't matter what it is. Because you know what? If I say no, then I'll never have that experience to know how it could have gone. Right. So it's like, she's like been, like she'll be at a like market and she'll mention breath work, and then they'll be like, oh, so and so does these kind of circles and blah 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 blah. Would you like to go do it? And she was like, yes, yes. And she'll just say yes to everything. I'm like, I'm gonna take a page from your book there, Sarah. Like, we're good. I'm gonna say yes to everything. So you were my first yes, Josh. So you asked me, and here I am. Yes.
Have you ever seen that movie Yes Man with Jim Carrey?
No, I don't watch movies. I'm so bad.
I'm such a movie. I'm like, it's bad. I just love watching movies. But it's the whole movie is he has to now say yes to everything.
Oh,
And his life just completely changes. He starts
wow.
experiencing so much joy, and
Oh,
he can't, like, there's something that actually happens where he can't say no. So he gets really stuck in certain situations, but
oh.
I just love that. I love
How is that for a nugget?
how different your life can be when you say yes to it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a fun nugget. Like I was doing it just in practice, but I think that's such a fun nugget to like hold on to from this. That just saying yes, like just say yes.
Mm-hmm.
Try it, do it. Like
And not to
let
get
me think it's
confused
more.
with saying no to, setting your boundaries
Oh,
in
right,
life,
right. No, no.
but
Got
saying
that.
yes to experiences. Yes.
Very important disclaimer there. Yes. Yes.
Because saying
Oh,
no is a whole nother empowerment that I've been learning also.
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, that's another one. Saying no is hard though. I think especially with that people pleaser side of us who've been people pleasers, or recovering people pleasers. I call myself a recovering people pleaser, recovering all kinds of stuff, like, which gives me room that if I end up doing something that is a people pleasing act, that it's like, you're recovering, you're still on the mend here. Like, you know, it's been too long. But
Yeah.
saying no is hard to, I think I'm getting better at it though. Again, I'm recovering. This is good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I
It's
think
good.
something like that, like people pleasing, I just think is like just generations deep. So I feel like it's always a process, especially when we've come from parents that were people pleasers, grandparents, and so on and so forth. That just generations of people that didn't know how to set their boundaries.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, that's a fun one to go down if you want to look backwards, like, oh my, yeah. And then historically, why maybe it didn't start as people pleasing, but maybe it was just you just couldn't say no. So you had to say yes. And then it just continued, right? Like, so yeah, there's that. I get curious about that too. I'm like, man, here we are like fighting the things that we're fighting, not even realizing how anchored we are in the past. And then, not just like our own past, but our parents and our grandparents and our great grandparents and all of our ancestors. Like that's another space of curiosity for me too. But like I said to Josh yesterday, like I am a really good at going down rabbit holes, like really good. And then I get lost, and then I'm like, am I in a cocoon again? Where did I go?
I feel gooey again.
It's so gooey.
So,
Yeah.
Alma, with breath work,
Mhm.
in what way do you feel like it's impacted or changed or benefited your life the most?
Mm. Um, it, I, uh, the awareness of consciously breathing and going inward, I think has been a big impact, right? Like I've been breathing for 46 years and had no idea that if I consciously, with intention, breathe and hold, either be held or hold myself in a space, that things can break up within me that I didn't know were there. And that to me was so like, that's what gets me like super stoked and hyped for everybody else to like, oh my God, you gotta, the like evangelist, like, oh my God, you have to know about this. That's how it was about Jesus, right? Like you have to be saved, you have to, right? Like I get like that. And then I move from it because I'm like, okay, how about I get a little more of this, right? And I recognize and I break some of these things up within myself before. It's like selling an amazing, plane before I even build it, right? Like I haven't really quite built it just yet, and it doesn't have all the parts yet. So for me, I think the beauty of the simplicity of it, right? The like breathing consciously or being held, and then just the like releases that come. Like I remember doing this one breathwork session. It was a recorded one from one of our mentors, and I was like laughing, crying, curled up. I was all of everything, and I was like, oh my God. And I remember going on to our we had a every other week we had a pod call with a smaller group, and I remember asking, like, are you supposed to know what you like processed out of your body? Like, are you supposed to name it? And I remember him saying, like, you don't have to know. Like, it's just gone. Like, it's not there. And I could feel the emptiness of that space, or the lightness of not caring whatever that was. Some of it was like past relationships that I could really pinpoint. And then some of them was like, I was like, I don't know what the fuck that, I'm sorry, I don't know what the hell that was, but that was like big. And I was in a fetal position at some point, and I was like angry at some point, and I was like, I was doing one of these like throughout my body, like away, like releasing. And then afterwards, just laying there and going like, oh my God, there was some broken things that just like were gone. And like, I don't, and then because of my structured mind, right? Like I want to make sense of it all. Like, oh, this must have been this. So I was thankful that he said, you don't have to know. You just, if it's there and it's in the way and it gets out of the way, let it be out of the way. Like, don't try to like, let me examine what I just moved out of. Like, no, it's gone. Like, let it go. So there was some liberation in that. And so on the flip though, when I have the honor of holding people, and I do hold that as a very like, again, responsible thing, right? Like I want to hold you with integrity, and safety is so important for me, for myself and for my breathers. Like watching someone is such an honor, to watch them process through to then come to the end, and then have this like, whether they're ahas, whether there are liberation from things, or whether it's just a release, whatever it may be, is like, wow, this is amazing. Like I'm so humbled afterwards. Like I'm so humbled during and before. Like I was telling Josh yesterday, like I held a group session, and I took a half day from work so I can go be in nature and like ground and make sure that I was energetically clean, that I could show up for them and be able to hold them in whatever they had. And that felt good to me. I keep wanting to say responsible. That felt good to me to do for myself and then for them. So it just yeah, sometimes I don't have words for it. I just think it's just such a beautiful, powerful experience both ways, that I think what I have to remember sometimes, that it's an ongoing thing too, right? It's not a one and done, right? I had that powerful experience, curled up, fetal position, something moved out of my body, but there's more. But wait, there's more, right? So like you keep breathing, right? And then for others too, that it's like, okay, there's more that we can, explore and release, or even just because you're stressed and you need to relax your system to just come back to this state of calm. Um, yeah, the many things, or the many benefits, I guess, of breath work. Still, like I'm in awe sometimes when I think about it, like, man, this is like really just your breath, right? It's just breathing. But it's more than that, right? It's holding that space and holding and having that um, connection with the group and being open to be channeled through for them. Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah. So I will not end, but I will say that I ended yesterday, I guess, with Josh, that connection is I'm learning is also a key. Like connecting with others regularly is important, because I think I had that so deeply when I went through the training, and then coming out of it and feeling like everybody's in a whole state away or 7 states away from me. And I like, how do I hold? So like whenever there's like, oh, we've got this group forming, like sign me up. There's this other group forming, sign me up. But there's this essence that's still not there, that I look for. And so sometimes it does feel lonely, and sometimes it feels like, okay, I'm going to breathe myself. And then it's like, it almost feels like the day that I went into the church and I was expecting something, and I walk away still feeling the same. And I never made that connection until now. And it saddens me sometimes. That's like, why can't I breathe and like go deeper? And why am I not connecting inward? Or why is it taking me so long to drop in? Why is it, yeah. So there's the beauty of it, and then there's the muddy part of it, I think, that is hard. And then I want to step away. So on Instagram, I'm on Instagram, and I'm like, I see all these great posts that people do, not the like the words, right? The like messages. And I repost a lot of those. And then for a minute, I was just like, I don't want to do any of that anymore. Like, I want to stop posting those things, and I want to start living some of these things, as opposed to like throwing these out there for everybody else to see. Because they strike me, and then I'm like, ooh, I want to share this with others. Boom. And then I put it right out. And they're all wonderful, and they're all folks are liking them, or they're resonating with them, but which is good. It's just that it just sometimes feels quiet, lonely, and not transformational in some sessions. And then I have to say, and that's okay too. Right?
I resonate a lot with that. I graduated the cohort before you, and I've been feeling that lately, like wanting that really like awe feeling that I used to have. And I even I did a breath work yesterday by the woman that got me into breath work to begin with. And I was like, all right, this is going to get me back. And it like well, it was kind of there, but not really. Like I got like the tingles I used to get, but I wasn't like fully in it. I was like getting really frustrated. But same thing, that's okay. It's okay to be that, because it could be guiding a different direction. Like we don't know why, but like the same thing. Like I joined all of the groups I could right after I graduated. I was like, I want to stay connected with everybody, but some of them didn't feel perfectly. Like I didn't feel like it wasn't that click. But I kept kind of trying out things, and then here I am, creating this beautiful podcast with Josh. So I feel like sometimes we just follow that feeling of like, okay, well, that feels okay. I could be getting a little more. So maybe I keep searching a little bit. Maybe I try something a little bit newer. Maybe I say yes to something new. So it's all part of that journey.
Yeah.
But it's hard. It can be a little disheartening when you're like, I just want to go as deep as I did one time, and it's so frustrating. You can't.
Yeah. And I often, I think like 2 or 3 weeks ago, I was like, I'm trying to recreate the past while trying to move into the future. And I don't know that that's what we're supposed to do, because
Right.
that experience was for that moment. And
Right.
so when I work really hard, like I'll go back and I'll do some of the guided, the mentor led breathwork sessions in, you know, on the recordings, and I'm like, this is, like you just said, this is going to take me there. I'm going to go there. And it's like, yeah, it was good, but that was
Right.
like for that moment, right? Like we were experiencing practicum during that time, or we were like ending practicum, or we were close to graduation. It was the force or whatever it was. And it was like,
Yeah.
but that felt so good. And I'm like, am I trying to recreate something that has already been there? And now what is it? What do I get to create now for myself for the future, right? For let my creation today be tomorrow's memory, right? And take it into like, yeah, let's do that.
But for me, sometimes I find that to be a little paralyzing. It's like it's a
Mm,
little scary. Like, okay, well, if that's not it, then what is? Like, what am I trying to
mm,
create? And it's up to
mm.
me to create that.
Yeah,
So
right. Yeah.
it's so
And I think
scary.
while we were in the classes, like while we were in the program, like we didn't know what we were creating either,
No,
right?
so
We
so
just
true.
we just flowed. We were saying yes to everything that was showing up for us every Monday night or whenever you had class. It was like we're just saying yes to it. I was like, okay, yeah. And I get the piece that there was an external force behind it, right? Like you just said something that paralyzes me too, that it's like, so I have to do this now, right? Like it's like there's a little bit of yes to that, I think, right? Because we're responsible for our own. But like yesterday, I was describing to Josh how like I felt like we were in this like glowing bubble as Pa's cohort, and then like I dropped out of it, and I was one little bubble now over here. And the more that I've walked, the less and it was these, like I said, glowing bubble, and then I was this individual glowing, right? And as the more that I've walked, the less my glow has been, and it's like I want to go back. And it's like I'm trying to jump back into that big bubble thing. Like but it's like, all right, well then what is my responsibility here then? What I have it in me, right? If I'm out of it, it's in me now. So I don't know, awakening some of those parts, and yeah, knowing that I can create that elsewhere myself with the community that I can connect with. So yeah. Yeah. And then I don't want to dwell on it too much, because then again, then I overthink it. Right. And then it's no longer this flow. It's this like it must be this, because my brain it makes sense in my brain. When none of what we went through in pause made sense. We just did it. Like we just did it.
True.
So yeah.
But 'tis the season. That's what I keep saying. I'm like, okay, well, it's that season of letting go, even if we don't know what we have to let go of. It's
Yeah.
time to reflect. It's time to shed
Yeah.
and reflect. Yeah, just be with
Yeah.
yourself. So I'm
Yeah.
in such a similar space. Thank you for sharing
Awesome. Yeah.
so much
Yeah.
of that realness.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I have a thought.
What?
as you ladies were sharing that, I was just thinking about a lot of what breath work is a remembering. And so pause was, I saw as you were describing it, it was like it's the bonfire. It's this globe of fire. And we went there and it didn't catch us on fire. Our energy vibrated at that same and said, "Oh, this is already me. I just didn't know or didn't remember." And then we leave and we're like, "Oh, I need to remember again." And it's over there in the thing that I have to get back in to remember, but it's actually inside of us. And then it makes sense that our brain's like, it's over there, it's in the thing.
Mm-hmm.
But if we remember that it's in here, and then tapping into that exactly where we're at, and it's the bonfire, that the torch, we can just relight ourselves by interacting people that are lit up, and then our energy ignites. But we need somebody to show up in that big space, that if we're all like, "I'm not on fire, I promise, I'm holding really still and I'm wet and cold and I'm not doing anything," instead of, "No, I'm on fire." And check it out, you have that inside of you too. And whether you need just somebody to remind you, which we all do at times, we forget. But it that's the cocoon. It's dark in there and it's cold and it's wet, and we forget. And then all of a sudden we crack open and we start to come out, and then it's like, now I have to be the flame.
We have to feed the flame.
Yeah. So it makes sense. And maybe you create, like, you can feel the feeling in your body of what it felt like going through pause, right? So it's in you now. And then it's just believing and daring to say, "Check it out, I'm on fire."
Yeah.
And then igniting the people around you, not because that's your job, but just the spotlight. It's just we just radiate. We radiate. And then the people that are looking are like, "He looks like he's on fire. I wonder if that's comfortable, or I wonder if I could do that too." And then they invite themselves in. That's what happened with you at the church. Even if somebody invites you, you have to invite yourself in too.
Sure. Yeah. Very true.
I love
that.
I love the metaphor.
Yeah, and it's helping me remember that the light is within me, that flame is within me. And I keep chasing it outside because that's where I found it, outside. I found that it was inside me from the outside. And then I have to remember that it's inside, right? Yeah. I feel like it was refined in all of us. I feel like we've always known that there's a little something inside of us, all of us. And then, that reflecting inward through the program was a confirmation. And now it's, what are we going to do with it? Let's just be with it. Let's just grow in this within ourselves. Yeah, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. Sorry, it just like really hit me real quick. But it's like, gosh, all my life I think I've chased on the outside for something. We all do, don't we? Like we want, and not that connection and outside is a bad thing, but like these big things are the big things that have been resting dormant within us, right? Or we've made dormant for whatever reason, right? Fear, doubt, blah, blah, blah. We've got it dormant inside us, but it's like, this was a nice little knocking on the dormant power that it's like, I am on fire. Oh, this is so cool.
It's always inside, and it's the most annoying reminder. It's like, oh, of course. I knew that, but I have to remember that it's in here.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Feels good. Solar plexus is on fire right now, friends. Everything on the inside.
So we love to wrap up by just allowing our guests, like, if they had a message to the world, what would you share?
Man, how can I deviate from what we were just ending with? Like, that is such a annoying, truthful reminder. That, gosh, if we slow down enough and be with ourselves and go inward and sip in the power at whatever sip amount we can take, right? Then that's where we need to be. That's where we grow. And I think permissioning ourselves to take a sip, not a gulp, not a guzzle. Take the sip. That's it.
Thank you for listening to the Deeper Awareness podcast, where the journey of self-discovery and inner growth continues to unfold. We hope this episode has ignited a spark within you and inspired you to embrace a more conscious and authentic existence by looking within. If you enjoyed today's conversation, be sure to subscribe and stay tuned for upcoming episodes, where we'll continue to explore the transformative power of breathwork and emotional healing. Continue the conversation and stay connected with us on Instagram. Follow at Deeper Awareness Podcast to receive daily inspiration, valuable tips, and updates on our latest episodes and offerings. We'd love to hear your thoughts and insights from today's show, so feel free to share them in the comments below or tag us in your posts. Your engagement and feedback mean the world to us as we strive to continue to create content that resonates and empowers our incredible community. Together, we can continue exploring the depths of consciousness, fostering genuine connections, and supporting each other on our transformative journeys. This episode is brought to you by You Belong Breathwork, your destination for transformative healing and self-discovery. At You Belong Breathwork, we believe in the power of breath to unlock the deepest parts of ourselves, leading to profound insights and a greater sense of connection and belonging. Whether you're seeking emotional healing, a deeper connection with yourself, or a path to authenticity, our breathwork sessions, retreats, and coaching programs are designed to guide you on this transformative journey. Our experienced facilitators are here to hold space for you as you explore the depths of your consciousness and discover the infinite potential within. Visit youbelongbreathwork.com to explore our offerings and download a free guided breathwork session. Thank you for being a part of our Deeper Awareness community. Stay connected, stay curious, and may you embrace your true essence with love and compassion. Goodbye for now, and see you in the next episode.